There we go. It should be good. It wouldn't be a live stream if Robin didn't forget to put her microphone on. Hello everybody, and everyone coming in on the replay. Want a big thank you, a huge shout out to my replay watchers. You guys for coming back and spending time with us afterwards. I want to be really careful with this microphone this time because I do not want to cut it while I'm cutting the batting. So let me see what I can do here. Today's going to be a bit of a noisy live stream. A lot of sewing. I need to wind some bobbins first. Hold still. There. Ta-da! Volume. Sound. Thought a little spontaneity today on a Friday. Well, it's 12:30 for me, but a Friday afternoon. Might be fun to just kind of hang out today. Always want to do some spontaneous last-minute live streams, so we'll see how this works. I have plenty more batting than this, but before I do that, I need to go ahead and start winding some bobbins. One second. Hope everyone's been having a good week. I am going to be using my side winder for winding my bobbins. Whoop, it's noisy. This is something that my son Robbie bought in, let's see, I'm going to say like 2007. He was 8 years old. He got it for me for Christmas. It's been working really well. Some people love it and some people hate it. I really like to use it. It makes bobbin winding pretty quick and nice and even. I have my old cutting mat out so that I don't have to deal with fuzzies and cleaning them on my new mat. I have this little glass jar in here. This was something that the kids ate, like a yogurt or a really fancy pudding or something like that. Creme brulee, or I don't know what they had. They had a fancy dessert. And this little jar holds my bobbins, the empty ones, and it fits perfectly in the donut. This is just polyester thread that I'm using. It might be a cotton polyester blend. I'm not sure. I won't wind a bunch. I just wind a couple to get me through. Just one more. I actually don't, I mean, I know how to wind bobbins on both of my sewing machines, but I don't know how to wind bobbins on both of my machines. I've only done it once or twice, just because I've always used this. It just allows me to wind bobbins pretty quick. Throughout November, I'm going to be doing more of these like pop-up live streams that will just work for, you know, half an hour, hang out a little bit and chat. and in addition to the regular live streams and such. Okay, and then I'll need this to actually sew with. Whenever I Franken-Piece my batting like this, I never use it in any project that's going to go in the microwave, like for bowl cozies and stuff. So that's why I go ahead and just use this big spool of thread. It says polyspun. It feels like it has some cotton in there. And then I use my brother's sewing machine. Doesn't need to be anything fancy. I have it set at a zigzag. I need to test it once I start to see if it's at the right density and stuff for the zigzag to make sure it's going to work for me. So let me put this up for now. I'll fill it more bobbins later. You can tell when something's old when the plastic gets that yellowing to it. We don't smoke or anything, so it's just, it does what it does from being old. And it's always in, oh, commercial. It's always in a drawer and stuff. I have my drinks of choice, my cranberry ginger ale and some flavored water. The soda where I won't spill it. I have this Dollar Tree locker basket full of batting scraps, but I want to start with, let me move this. I want to start with these. This one is, one of them is Wrap and Zap, and one of them is just the natural cotton. But as I said, once I start piecing things together, hi Audrey, you're here, you made it. Welcome, welcome. I was rambling earlier, I haven't been live that long, that I'm going to just randomly do some more of these spontaneous live streams like this. I've wanted to for a while, but the motivation is I'm in this group with YouTube, and that if I go live 10 times, I think it's October 15th to December 15th, I'll get a free YouTube hat. And I just kind of want that YouTube hat. So I'm going to go live and see if I can get those 15 in. It shouldn't be, hopefully, you know, knock on wood, it shouldn't be too hard. So I have this one to start with. I linked down below in the description box to my video on Franken-Piece in the batting. Hi, Connie. Ooh, the last day of vacation. That sounds like fun. I don't think I've been on a vacation since I was a child. So what I want to do is I want to have 2 straight edges. Now, most of these I'll be using for mug rugs. Depending on the project, I don't want the seams to be shown, but when you do them and everything, then it's relatively easy to, it'll be hidden in the quilt. If I'm using a lot of white fabrics, I usually don't use the Franken-Piece batting, just because I don't want that to show through the white accidentally. Why take a chance, right? So what I'll do is I'll take, what we got going on here? I will take and just get a longer ruler to start with. All right, don't top it over, Robin. Okay. Sorry for any shakiness. I need to go in the garage and find one of the weights. I was gonna buy a weight system meant for tripods, but I don't have the right legs in my tripods to do it, so I want to see if I can just put a weight on it. I know which battings that I use, Audrey, so to be able to tell the difference. Now, this one, just by looking at this batting, I know what the, I use the Warm Company, Warm in White and Warm in Natural. I can just tell by looking at it, And I can see this one's needle punch, so it stretches a little, but I'm not going too hard, but it's a little harder to pull apart. This, when I look at this, I can tell this is this batting that I tried to see if it worked good from Amazon. It's a cheaper cotton batting, but it has, let me pull it off. It has some lightweight fusible interfacing that holds it together. Otherwise, it just comes apart, right? Now, I can't use this in bowl cozies anyways because of that interfacing. Wrap and Zap, I keep in a separate container, and I know what that is, mostly because it's so gosh darn thick, and it's this creamy color also. I have my old cutting mat, so I can clean this later, and I won't get any batting stuck inside my good cutting mat. So if I just line it up, and this is scraps at this point, so it doesn't matter if I cut off too much or too little. I have a reasonably sharp, non-dull blade, but it's not my good one that I use all the time to cut fabric. I can throw that away. Yeah, see this, you can see all of that. This one's the same as this one with that interfacing on there. So there's one side, and then on this one, just kind of line it up. This works out really well for mug rugs and placemats, definitely fabric postcards. But it's so much easier if you do have a straight edge. Now you can take the two pieces and lay them down to each other and then just cut them so both will match up. I generally deal with rectangles and straight edges, so this works this way also. Definitely gonna have fuzzies and everything everywhere. And I don't think I'll finish the whole entire bin today, but I can at least get a good start, make sure the rotary cutter's closed. So now I can take these two pieces, and I'm going to try to put them so that that fusible interfacing is on top, because if I touch my iron to that, it melts and gets stuck to my iron. So I'll start this. Now I can go ahead and trim here. Let me get some scissors too, just to have a variety of tools to work with. Whoops, almost knocked over that soda anyways. Keep your Wrap and Zap in its bag, yeah, so that you know exactly what it is. I love warm and natural. Well, warm and natural is fine, but I love warm and white the best because sometimes, like I said, that cream might show through a little bit. And it's probably just a me problem, not a real problem. And I've used it from like day one. Now, some of you guys will send me your scraps or different battings to try. So I don't always know, like the people who make quilts, when they trim off the 6 inches off of the side from being like long-armed, they'll send me that. You have to excuse me, my asthma is a little rough today, allergy season and all. They'll send me those pieces that have been cut off because they don't want to deal with it and they know I will. So I put that in my miscellaneous container, and then I can use it for random projects that don't matter. So I have the white thread. It says polyspun, so I'm going to guess that it's a blend. Someone sent me a cone. It's not my preferred thread, which doesn't really matter because I can use a variety, but I like cotton thread for most things. So this way I save it for projects like this. I am sitting at a 2.0 for the stitch length and a 5.5 for the width. I don't know if either one of them is going to work. It's whatever I'm in the mood for every time I sit down. So let's see. Ooh. Let's do a 3.0. I just wanted to hold it in place, and I'll go 7 as wide as it can go. There we go. Then I can just take a peek. Yeah, that looks good. I just need to hold it into place, and knowing that it's Franken-Piece, I'll make sure that when I quilt it, that it's quilted in a way like I wouldn't want to lay the batting out so that the seam is going in a direction, in a section that's not going to be quilted. If I can do it, I'll kind of spin it around and make sure I'm going to do that extra quilting on top of it. And then I use my little brother's sewing machine because, I mean, I don't know how much it matters, but I figure machines are like lawnmowers and they go by how many hours they've been sewn. So I like this little machine. I bought it purposefully to do projects like this and to stitch around like fabric postcards so that it's not using up the life of my main sewing machine. Yeah, when I do when you do a black quilt, mostly black fabric, they have black batting for it. Let me pull out the white so everyone can see the difference. And I'll show you how I can easily tell with this also. So here's the white, and it's bleached, I would imagine, so it's nice and bright. Now, I know this is the Warm Company's because you see, this is where it's needle punched a whole bunch of times. And that, now, you can hear me pulling, right? This doesn't come apart because it's been needle punched into place versus this one that I just pulled the corner off as if it was cotton candy or something like that. I just cut this piece off. I don't think it has a problem, but we'll play nice. Now, a lot of times I'll do this when I'm making like my Christmas fabric postcards and I want to make like 50 of them. I'll go ahead and do this. If you know the size projects you're doing all the time, if you're like, I want to make placemats and I'm going to make up a number and I want to make them 18 by 22, like a fat quarter or something like that, right? Then you can make each piece to match that. Now this, I can also lay it down here. If it was a little bit longer, I would put it right here. Let me see if any of this is that same. Oh yeah, this is that same material. This is that same material. And then some of the batting is Dream Cotton batting that my crafty godmother sent me to try out. I like it, it's fine, but I'm just used to what, like I know how to and how far apart to quilt my batting, so I stick with that. So I think I'll put this on here so that I can just make one big piece and then I can chop this up and make fabric postcards with it. So with this piece here, I can lay them right sides together. I need to find a better spot for that ruler. And the line doesn't even have to be straight. It can be crooked. So if you have, I work with rectangles. I like rectangles with my scraps and with my batting. And I have a trash can on the floor so that I can just throw everything in there. But if you have like triangles and stuff like that, and then again, I'll make sure both are in the right direction. Well, I was doing some research and I joined some quilting groups, and the people in the group said that the best batting to use was warm and white. So I'm like, okay, you guys are smarter than me, let me do it. And now it's called warm and white plush. It's a little bit thicker, but the rest, just a regular warm and white is thin now. So when I buy it for a quilt, I get the plush. But if I'm making bags and stuff, the thinner batting is great. Plus, I don't know if you're new and you're hearing my voice or you just didn't know, you can put 2 pieces of batting in a quilt or any project if you want it a little heavier. I've seen people put 2 pieces of wool batting in for a good heavy, like Minnesota winter and stuff. Keep my wrap and zap separate. Oh yeah, wrap and zap was on sale once. In here, since I've been in Arizona, it was like $5 a package, and it was normally $15, and they only allowed me to buy 4. So every time it arrived at the house, because I couldn't order more until it arrived, so I ordered 4 packages. It arrived, I ordered 4 more, but then I realized that I don't care for it because it's so thick. I'll probably just make bowl cozies one at a time with it, you know, one layer versus two. So here's my original piece. And just to try to keep it, I don't want to just line up the edge. I'm going to line up that stitching right there. Whoa. Just to keep it from being a weird shape. Now, batting like this in most studios, sewing spaces would get thrown away. Not everyone saves their batting. They donate it or toss it. So if I cut a little extra off here or there, I'm not going to worry about it. Some people do like to save their batting scraps for like stuffing pin cushions and stuffed animals and stuff, but I don't like that. Yeah, it's 10 inches. When that was one of the great things. It started out, I think, at like 8 inches, and then it went up to 10 inches, or vice versa, either way. Yeah, I do when I learned how to pin a quilt, I learned to just put your hand here and then pin it. And the same thing with tying. I've tied a few quilts. Again, it's about this much too long, so I'll just cut this off. This is one of those projects, if your creativity, your Sojo, your Mojo, your Crafting Joe, if you're kind of off and not feeling it, you're in between projects and you want a little break, you can take the time to do this. And then when you're in a rush and you need batting and it's 3 a.m. and all the stores are closed, and what are you going to do? You need to finish this project for in the morning. Then you can just take your old pieces of batting and put them all together to finish whatever it is you're working on. Now, I would probably do it for a lap quilt, and I think I have before. I think if I'm going to do like a king size or a queen size quilt, I'm just going to buy the batting that's large enough. When I first started quilting, I didn't budget a lot for it. I wasn't going to spend, you know, grocery money on stuff. So I would go to like thrift stores, and for like $1 or $2, you could get one of those thick mattress protectors that's all quilted and it's all cotton and stuff like that, or even the polyester ones. I use that in place of batting on my quilts. You can also use a blanket or something. I know I see a lot of videos about people going to Walmart and getting those lap blankets that go on sale a lot. They're fleece and flannel and stuff. And then they use those to line their quilts. So now up here, again, remember, I'm just kind of doing the do, and it's not that big of a deal. This one's mug rug size, so I don't think I really need to do anything with it. Sometimes I'll keep the pieces that are large enough like that, so I can add a little something to it and make a fabric postcard. Fabric postcards, I'll mix together all the battings, I don't care. So now I have this that I can cut from to do projects. I have this, and then this one, I'm going to keep it with this just because this is that funky batten. And I have to keep plastic bags out of the reach of the cats because they like to chew on them. I'll still fold this up and put it back in the Ziploc bag so it doesn't get mixed in. I still have a bit of this stuff to use up. I think I bought something like, it was really cheap, and it was, you paid a little bit of money and they sent you 2, and I think they might have been twin size or lap size pieces of batting for less than what I paid for one of my regular one. Now I know why. It's not that easy to work with. But this would work well. I would be very comfortable using Franken-Piece batting for the Quilt As You Go, like Connie did, or when she's working on her Quilt As You Go projects, because that would keep the seams within the block. You would quilt it, and then you would create new seams and stuff. I would be very comfortable doing that. That wouldn't bother me. So now I have, this right here, just to keep it from getting too bad, I have a brush from the Dollar Tree for dishes. I just hold it right here. Sorry about the noise. And that's just, you know, enough for now to keep me going. And then I'll come back later. If this was my good mat, I'd clean it with a eraser. But I just take my good mat and put it right on top of here. Keep the chair out of the way. So now I have these pieces, so I need to look and see what I have. This feels like the Wrap and Zap because it's thicker and kind of fuzzy feeling, but this is not big enough for bowl cozies, and I don't Franken-Piece bowl cozies. So I have these pieces, and I can just see. Now for this, I do have these little pieces like this, but with this batting, normally I would save it, and I'll probably still save it because I hate to throw things away. If I did a quick sew of this, I can make it for my postcards. And for that, I probably wouldn't even, here, let me just show you. I wouldn't even cut this or anything. I'll just take like a jelly roll race quilt and I'll put them together end to end, sew it, and when I get to the end, I'll just trim it off. And that way I can keep sewing them together. And for the fabric postcards, if it's a little lumpy in one spot or the other, it's fine because of the way I quilt them. For a regular quilt, I mean, you can get away with this with your batting. I would just be a little particular. If I was making hot pads, I wouldn't see a problem with it. Coasters, you're going to put a drink on it, so maybe not that. There could be some uneven, there could be some little gaps that aren't getting sewn perfectly touching together and stuff. But for small projects, especially like I said, the fabric postcards, most of my fabric postcards are made from scraps, because scrap fabric and scrap batting, because, I mean, why, right? Why use the good stuff for something like that when I can just go ahead and use up, wake up, Mousy. Wakey, wakey. And then again, I can still do, I can put it together. I can trim this at this point if I want, or I could just go ahead and do the same thing with like the jelly roll race. You can trim the sides. It just depends on the project you're making. If you're making something for the design wall or for the grandkids or the kids to just play with and create their own little quilt for their stuffed animals, scraps and just kind of sewing them together it's a great use of it. Now they do have a thing called seam tape that you just iron on. You do the same process of cutting the sides level, even and straight, and then you put the seam tape down. And just to give you a tip for those of you that are kind of like cheap like I am, it's like, why spend that much money on something when you can just make your own? Look at it and tell me, you know, if you can see your friends or something, but I think it's just a fusible lightweight interfacing that's just cut into strips that easily go straight down. So now this is a little wonky, right? It's not a nice straight piece or anything like that, but it measures 7 inches at the widest point. So I would be able to then take this. If I were sitting here and processing my scraps myself, I would sit here and cut these into my postcards are 4.5 by 6.5, but I cut everything 5 by 7. Now, of course, down at this end, it's only 6.25 inches, so I would need to, you know, this is where I could add a piece down to here and go ahead and make it wide enough and stuff like that. I'm going to do it. Watch me do it. There are so many things that have these very strict rules that it's kind of nice to just sit here and pop on my headphones and watch a video or a movie or something and be able to just zone out and sew all these pieces together. I am always surprised by how long it takes, because if you wait too long, and now this one shouldn't take me very long. If I paid attention, I could sew all of it in an afternoon or something. But if you do it like at the end of the month or at the end of a big project, you can have all of this pieced together really quickly. And then when you're ready to make projects, you're like, oh wow, look, I have all of this. So I could take this piece. I put it back. I have another Ziploc baggie. So it's really easy to use bags you already have, or to have little plastic containers to get advertisements from YouTube so they can pay for us to do this for free. And then you can sort it and put a label on it based on, what it is. Like, this is a good chunk. I don't need to do anything with this. That can be used as is, zipper pouch or a mug rug. So this one, don't give more work for ourselves, right? So this one's 8 by 7.5. That can get used for coasters, or depending on the size of the mug rug. And if I have these pieces and I need it a little wider, I can just add in a piece real easily. So then, excuse me, I have this. Oh, here we have a wonky piece. So let's just chop that off, because that's not going to do anyone any good. I try to do, like when you're cutting your fabric and you're cutting scraps and stuff, you try to cut the biggest pieces first and work your way down. So if I'm going to piece it, I want to put 2 big pieces together before I do anything else. Here I am with this long strip again. And these are 4 and 4 1/4. So 4 plus 4 is 8. That would definitely be fine. So let me see what this looks like. So if I want to say it starts to get narrow, a little bit narrower, let's just say right there, right? Probably be smart to lay them out and make them equal so that when you sew them together, ooh, I got lucky. And then, again, take your piece. If you have it by the folded part and you lift it up and you shake it, it'll tell you where it wants to lay. They can do that with fabric also. And then you can just go ahead and trim it. Again, if you put it and you lay it so the edges match up, you can get something weird and funky on the bottom. It works. Not saying it won't, but maybe, don't cut your mat. I was right next to my sewing colorful mat here. It depends on what you're looking for, right? And how you need it to be. So here's one long piece. Here's my other. Now if I lay it to the left right here, even though batting sticks, you can kind of see where it wants to be. See the big curve that it has right there? I think it'll be fine. Again, we're not messing with rocket science here. We're just kind of making it up as we go, just to get these pieces to be sewn together in a reasonable fashion. Now I'm probably going to get one of those elbow curves in this, but it is batting and it does move a lot, right? So does anyone else do Franken batting, or am I just the weirdo that doesn't mind taking the time? I don't think I've done a major round of Franken batting here in Arizona, which would mean I haven't done it probably since 2023. Like, sit down and devote time to do a bunch of it. I threw away, well, I put it out to the road and let someone come pick it up, a lot of my random batting scraps when we moved. So I only took some of the bigger pieces versus all the little strips. Now I do have up on the shelf, I save when I'm going through and doing this, if there's like long skinny pieces left over, I'll cut them into a 1-inch wide strip so that I can use it for my key fobs. And 1 1/4 or 1 inches I can use for the handles in my tote bags. So I don't even have to cut batting when I'm doing that. It's already there and ready for me. I try not to piece batting in the tote bag handles because it kind of makes the handle have like a little bend to it. Like you can fold it, like a manila folder has that fold in it. So for that, I kind of need to, I go a little bit fancier where I might use the interfacing to hold it in place and zigzag on top of it, just so I don't have, when you have this Franken-Piece, it can create, like a fold place when you're doing the long handles and stuff. So I just try to be careful. We don't use scraps in all of our, well, you guys don't use scraps in all of your projects. I kind of do. And the same with like the batting, it's not for every project. But just think about how much money, hi Jackie, how much money you could save, right? If you were piecing your batting. If you're just a quilter and you're like, Robin, you're crazy, that's great, right? See who you can donate the batting to, whether it's a school or a church, or if you're quilt guild, or maybe the quilt shop can tell you where. I'm not keeping everything. And I am 100% not chopping up my pieces and putting them, into stuffies or anything like that. I don't really care for that in pin cushions. Now, for my projects, this is way too long, so this piece has a weird, like that, so I'll go to this side, kind of line up my seam, and then I can trim this. And then I can sew these two edges together, and that'll give me a wider piece, because super long is not going to do much for me. I need something wide enough. Because I really like to do mug rugs. And of course, fabric postcards with this. The 9-patch coasters and the 1-piece coasters, I don't know. I want to put a certain amount, my quilt's falling off my chair. I want to put a certain amount of quilting in something in order to use the Franken batting. Just because I don't want it, as a coaster's being used a bunch, I don't want it to create like that fold, that crease in it or anything like that. So I just want to make sure everything's going to lay nicely. Now, some people will just do a 1/2-inch seam like this, but remember when you open it up, you're going to have that bulk there. By laying it side by side and just zigzagging like crazy. Let me see if I can bring that in. See the zigzag there? So it's at its widest, and I want enough so that there's not gaps peeking out, but not so much. Sorry, my cat is sleeping behind me on one of the cat beds, and she's like waving at me with her hind paw while she's sleeping. She's having a dream. I just don't want open spaces where it might wear uneven or create a shadow in the project. Now, if I were making a tote bag for myself, I probably wouldn't care. But if I'm going to put something in my shop and sell it to someone, I want to make sure it meets a certain standard, right? And if I'm giving a gift, I don't care what I do for myself. I need my drink. Yes, we're having a surprise live, because if I get 10 lives, I think before December 15th, I can get a free YouTube hat. So I want that free YouTube hat. My first husband, I have been married twice, if anyone didn't know, but my first husband, we used to go and donate blood all the time just in order to get the free t-shirt. I'm willing to not be lazy and do certain things if you're going to give me something for free. I won't get a play button until I get 100,000 subscribers. So I'm going to count the hat as like my reward. Have you tried the easy seam batting? I think I have, Jackie. I think I have it here. And as far as I can tell, I believe it's just we discussed it already in my brain. I let all that information out. Lightweight interfacing. So I think you could just take lightweight interfacing and do it yourself. I don't know how much trust and faith I have in that seam tape. Like maybe I might want to do it for an entire quilt. If I'm going to like free motion the quilt or something, I might do it for the quilt just to avoid this, because you can feel the stitching, of course, and you can see it. Now I'm looking at this, and I was going to say I have different batting, but I think it's just 2 are right side up and 2 are reversed. I think this one in the center might be the dream batting or something. It's very back of a fuzzy flannel shirt feeling, while the other pieces don't feel like that. I have threads and everything. But it's all cotton as far as I can tell, and if it has a blend, that's okay too, because I'm not going to put it in a bowl cozy. If somebody accidentally, you're not going to accidentally put your tote bag in the microwave. If someone were to do that, then that's on them and not me, right? All right, I got rid of the one. So this one feels large enough to me to cut into all other pieces or to use for like a placemat or something. So I'll leave this, and as I'm working, again, if I need a bigger piece, I can sew 2 of these together or add another piece on while I'm working. I mostly just want to like clear out the mess in there because the bin's getting full and I can't put any more scraps in it. Oh yeah, definitely, Connie. Just like Jelly Roll. And you know, if you trimmed your quilt, chances are one edge is already straight, so you just go ahead and sew forever. Oh yeah, no little pieces. Yeah, I get tons of little pieces, but look, I can use a 6.5 to 7.5 inch square for coasters. So the pieces get used up a lot. Yeah, Jackie, exactly. This is my cotton batting. Not necessarily sure exactly what everything is. This is that batting that I bought from Amazon that is not needle punched. It just has one whole sheet of lightweight interfacing holding the batting together. So that's in a separate bag. And then I have all of my white pieces here. So we're just doing the non-white pieces to start with. And just matching up and figuring out what you have. Big pieces, little pieces, they all catch thread. Oh, yeah, thread. So I showed you a video once on how to make, I know I did that in Florida, so it's been a bit, how to make the little scraps of thread catchers for either sewing or for like cross stitch and you can use these pieces of batting for that to get them all pieced together. Bookmarks. These would be great for bookmarks. The small like AirPod cases and chapstick cases, all of these pieces, so definitely like the craft fair people. So if you're doing that for gifts, I would use this for Christmas stocking. You know, that's a seasonal, not year round, not much use goes into it. That would be fine. All right, so I have all of these pieces, so I can choose to just sew them together this way. I can sew them together on the short ends to make a nice long project. These look like the way the light's hitting it, I can't tell if it's white or not. It possibly could. I don't mind mixing the white with the off-colored, the natural either. Oh, don't sit down, you gotta cut something. So let me see these. I also have no problem taking it like this, piling them up. Especially if you use a 60 millimeter, you can make larger piles, so you're not just cutting one piece at a time. You see, these are batting scraps are great. Oh, with the white ones, you can make snowmen. I've seen snowmen made from batting. I've made them myself. Put you over here. And for everyone that popped in a little late, I am on my old cutting mat. So I don't have to worry about getting batting in my good cutting mat. Or if you have one that like only has printing on one side, you can flip it over and use the other side for batting. Because you know that batting gets into the grooves or creates its own grooves on your cutting mat real quick. I keep the shorter pieces when I'm piecing things together if I'm going for a certain size, and I'll do the longer pieces, and then if it's like short 2 inches, I'll go ahead and put the little narrower pieces on. That's why one other reason to save them for last. And there's that. And then I don't want to use, I have a 60 millimeter, rotary cutter. I don't want to use it because it has a brand new blade in it. So this will work. And then we'll clean the mat up a little bit again. For those that have popped in, like I said, I was talking earlier about just sitting down and doing this when you know you're not in the mood to start a new project. You don't have time to commit to a big project because the holidays are coming or you're going away or something like that, and you want to just work on something a little bit. A few minutes before you go to bed, and then this brush will just grab, with those plastic bristles on there, it just grabs that batting if you put it in a circle. And it fills up the brush, and you can just go through later with like a fork or a toothpick or something like that, your scissors, and just, you know, get all the extra fuzz out because it does fill up. So I think my plan was to make a very short live stream today, so we'll just go ahead and sew these together, and then you guys can go off and enjoy your day, what's left of it. So I have this and this. Probably sew this again into a panel. I do have this long piece, like these 4 right here will definitely make it into one because it's long enough. And then after a point, these can go at the edge if they need to. You see, I'm not even pressing this. Now imagine you can do the same thing with, I know like wool batting and stuff, that fluffy, lofty polyester. I don't know, maybe save those for quilt as you go stuff, I don't know. If you sew it together, it would take that floofy stuff and compress it. Now, some people do this by hand, so maybe that's a good option for the lofty polyester batting. I would just personally, I have some that, 1, I bought some by accident, 2, someone sent me some of their leftovers, and I find it works great for the fabric postcards, but I would just find small projects to use my scraps of those with. It wouldn't take long at all to sew this by hand. And if you know you're not going to use this for like a quilt with a bunch of white in it, I've done it in the past. I don't have to do it right now. I'm in good shape. But this is a great way to use up bobbins. Put a full bobbin in the bottom, and then put your leftover bobbins up top, one by one, of course. And then you can see when it runs out, because it's easy to change the top thread compared to dealing with the bobbin every, 3 minutes or something. And you can use it up, especially if you're using, different whites and you have yellows and creams and stuff. I would still use reds and blacks and purples, but I would try to keep all of those on one piece and then I can use it for a darker project. Because we really don't want red zigzag quilting showing through on a white wintry Christmas project. You guys even have 2 videos in one day, a live stream and a video. It's crazy. I wouldn't think that I would do any videos in the morning, but I would like to do some, you know, in the afternoon and into the evening, my time, just to let everyone catch it who doesn't normally get to go because it's early and it's on a Saturday or something like that. So random Tuesday at, you know, 6 p.m. my time or something like that, or 3 in the afternoon. I never expect very many people to show up for a pop-up like this, but once, you know, it'll show up in the regular YouTube listings later on. So for anyone who misses it, they can always catch it later. And I'm almost done. You could say, like, maybe you're going to work on this project until you use up 1 bob and a thread. So I'm almost at the end of, I would think it was pretty much a full bobbin, minus maybe a little. And what, maybe a half hour, 45 minutes of sewing. It'd be less time for you because you wouldn't be talking. We've got to stretch our fabric money, right? If you save 20 bucks on this, then you can get $20 worth of fabric. I used to keep my scraps in like a big Rubbermaid bin, but that is really a bit much because when you go to actually go through your scraps and to Franken-Piece any of it, you know, that's a lot extra to go through. And I've seen other people do like trash cans, like the big ones you would have, the round silver metal ones, or a big kitchen trash can or something. And that's not bad either, but it's still, it's large, right? That's a lot to go through. And if you have a small container, I don't think that works either, because if you tell yourself, I have this small container and when it's full, I'm going to do it, right? But not all of us will do it. So if you get a medium-sized container, then, you know, you got a good chance. I keep my small bits at the bottom of my container. For those of you that are just kind of popping in, I have one of these locker bins from the Dollar Tree. It's only about 8.5 inches tall and about, you know, 9-10 inches wide. I keep all of my little stuff at the bottom and the big pieces on top. So anytime I go to work on a project, I can go in and I can say, oh, okay, this piece is big enough for coasters or mug rugs. So I always use that first before I go into my big pieces. Lately, when I've been buying batting, I'll buy a twin size piece of batting or a king size piece of batting. And I'm out of bobbin. Queen size tends to go on sale a lot on Amazon. I just watch for the sales, right? Batting is very expensive, right? Let me see who I'm looking at. Hi, Heather. Yeah, everything is expensive nowadays, isn't it? I was like, where did I put my bobbins? I know I made bobbins with you guys. So people that are just popping in, if you want to see me fill a couple bobbins, I did that at the beginning just to get me going. And I'm using, it says spun poly, so is that a polyester cotton blend? I don't know. I have this one spool that was gifted to me. Sometimes you can find things at like garage sales and stuff, and while you're like, hey, that kind of looks like it's good thread, but I don't know how old it is or anything like that. Projects like this are a good way to use up those random bits. I had to stop for the ads. Because I never know if you guys have ads with me. Ooh, all the winter commercials are coming out, so everyone's wearing knit sweaters and stuff. You know, if you're going to make a king-size quilt and sell it for $4,000, I'm going to buy brand new batting for it, right? But if I'm going to make some scrappy hot pads, coasters or something like that, I think my coasters are like $4.25 or $4.50. I don't have a problem putting two pieces together for a coaster. I feel guilty about a lot of stuff. You guys have been here for a while with me. You know I'm a little particular about things that go in my shop, and I feel guilty on things, so I'm kind of a little bit careful. So I can put this here, or I can build it this way. This batting and this batting feel a little different. I don't know if it really is, but if I do this. And remember, we're cutting our batting and creating sizes. This definitely is wrap and zap. I can feel it. You're building it to something you're going to make. If you don't make coasters, then a 7-inch square is not worth it to you. This looks like I can... What size is this? I might not even have to do anything. This is 10 by 8. Look, that's enough to make a zipper pouch, especially... I wouldn't just put one piece of fabric on here with that seam. I would put on the Quilt As You Go, where I'm going to put a bunch, like when we did the sheep pouches on a live stream. I would put that on here. I would feel comfortable doing that and putting it in the shop. And for mug rugs, I think that's a decent size for mug rugs. And again, piecing it, I would feel comfortable with. Now this piece, we don't need to make it for a whole quilt, right? This piece is 6 by 11. And I'm just looking because these two, this one definitely looks a lot wider than that one. So I might just leave it like this and say, okay, that's a size. Since I'm not making anything in particular, I don't need to be an exact size. I just need to get some of those strips sewn together so that I can have a little bit less work to do when I create something small and scrappy. So there is that. So I've pieced this together, and this is the other batting with that interfacing on there. I pieced that together. Had to run out. I had to go to the doctor again this week. I swear, you go to a new doctor and they send you to every type of specialist you can go to. But I was back at the dermatologist this week. It's crazy busy out there now. We're in, I don't know if you guys call it snowbirds here in Arizona like we did in Florida, but everyone's here now. We're in November, so it's a bit crazy out there. So I have these bits, and then I just have this to deal with. And it's not a mad rush. I have batting that I can use. There are some larger pieces. What I might do is, like at night, after dinner time, you're just kind of watching TV, you can go through and take pieces out and say, okay, well, if I take this piece matches this piece type of situation. If I put these two together, this is that dream cotton batting. I can tell by looking at it. If you put a whole bunch of batting out here, I wouldn't know what it is, but I know it's in my studio. And this is the warm. I don't know if you can see it, but this one is a little bit see-through. Like I can see the dark matte through it. And this one is not as see-through. It's more compacted and more needle punched, where this one is, you know, it pulls a lot easier. So you can match things up in preparation. Like these right here, I would go through and I'd say, oh, they're wide enough to be a strap for a tote bag, and they're only 20 inches, so that's not long enough, but this could also work for key fobs. Now, my choice for key fobs will always be fusible fleece because it makes it easy, but I started out using batting. So I would probably sit through and just sort out all of these pieces for projects like that because they're large enough that I'm not, if it's 1.25 inches or an inch, I'm going to keep it. And you just never know what you're going to trim off, right? So just by going through and pulling that stuff out, it would just clear out a lot of the stuff in the bin to begin with. And then I would have stuff ready to go. Now, I don't cut it down to, I won't cut it to like 12.5 inches for a key fob. I'll leave it like this, and I may or may not trim it down. But like this piece right here, I know this piece is not going to do anything for me. It is 1 inch and wide, and it's 6.5 inches long. If I were making like mini key fobs, just the ones that are short to like put on your fingers or something, then yeah. But I also have miles of this that I can just cut a piece off. So when I first started quilting, I saved everything and I sewed it all together. This could get added on to a fabric postcard piece, but I've kind of decided where I need to spend my time and energy compared to the urge to save everything because it costs money and I don't want to waste money. And really it comes down to that. What is the value of your time and what is your budget compared to how much time and energy you're going to put into going through this? Because these are smaller pieces. A lot of people will just say, get rid of it. I do have these pieces here. These pieces are pretty close to being a fabric postcard. I must have been working on like a bulk project because these are 5 3/4 by, let's do it the right way, 5 3/4 by like 4 1/4. A couple of those together and I would make fabric postcards. So I think my next thing is, I'm going to let you guys go in just a few minutes, or you can leave whenever you want, is I think I'll just sit here at the machine and just push all of these through, and then I'll have a whole bunch when I'm ready to do my scrappy fabric postcards. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me and helping me earn my YouTube red hat. I think it's a baseball cap. I think it's red. It says YouTube, and it has the little button on it, like when you hit the play a video, that triangle. I'm going to keep working on these and get all the mess put away. And then I'll bring out my good cutting mat and put it back on top. Because remember, a dull blade in your rotary cutter and an old cutting mat, they don't work well together. If you have an old cutting mat and a new blade, it will dull it quickly. And then a new, well, yeah, so then what? A new cutting mat and an old blade is also going to leave gouges in your nice new cutting mat. Everything is so expensive nowadays. Take care of your tools, use your resources, and don't forget, old bobbins with just a few rounds of thread can go on the top and get those used up. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Double check the comments, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.